Well, today's episode is going to be a little bit fun. First things first, we're going to be reviewing Stardom's much recent events from the Stardom world that hasn't been shown up, but now it has. This one is in their Takamatsu show that took place on the 15th of March. As you know, we continue with more of the Himiko Retirement Road and plenty other matches that took place. We even got GLEAT's latest events, the G Pro Wrestling version 47, that features two title matches. That's right, the G Infinity and the G Rex titles are on the line. We even feature a UWF Tag Team Rules match, and of course, Unagi Sayaka comes back with another round of match against Miyu Miyagi, but this time it goes in a tag match where she teams up with Izuki Aoki, and of course, Miyagi teams up with none other than Yukari Ozawa. Then, of course, we move into Impact Wrestling. As you know, we head to Sacrifice, so anything could happen before then. So basically, we're going to be paying attention, but also we'll be building up all the way to Rebellion next month. Then, of course, Ring of Honor continues on. As you know, we're getting closer and closer to Supercard of Honor. Anything could happen. And of course, Samoa Joe put the World Television title on the line in an open challenge. So we'll find out who answers the call. And of course, we got some news updates to tell what's been going on in the pro wrestling, what events are taking place, what matches are being booked, and anything in between. Also, don't forget, we got the WrestleCon coming up soon. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay right here. So let's begin with Stardom. They were in Takamatsu back on March 15th. Now it opened up with a very unusual tag team match. We have Yuna Mizumori teaming up with Momokogo, and they face off Wingori, the members of Stars, Saida, and Hana. Now, some of you can view this more as like it's not a tag match, it's a 3-on-1 because, of course, don't forget, Momo is a member of Stars. So that kind of sets the whole thing up. But, however, this match ended with, of course, with Ida with the uh, Ibushi onto um, onto Momo. So basically, that kind of ends it right there. But you know perfectly well there's going to be a bit of like argument between both Momokogo and Yuna Mizumori. So that's how things go. Our next match, we got Saki Kashima taking on Koguma. Now, I have to say this is a very good match because, as you know, Saki Kashima did challenge for the high speed title. So I'm going to presume this match will probably take place in the All Star uh, Queensdom All Star Queensdom event that takes place on April 23rd. Uh, it's a good choice for Saki Kashima to challenge Koguma because, as you know, she's been declared as the high speed genius. So it would be. But however, I'm sure Saki Kashima was no slouch when it comes to Koguma. To keep in mind, Koguma likes being chased outside the ring, but this time it didn't fail. But as always, her Kichikase has never failed Saki Kashima at all. Only on certain occasions, if that was the case, but this time it did not. Next up, we got, of course, Club Venus, Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa taking on Queen's Quest, Lady C, and Azumi. Now, this is also another interesting match. Now, there was a time I do remember Mariah May has talked about maybe competing in a high speed championship. That is something that she's talked about, and I'm sure that her interaction with Azumi would have been a good one. But however, we know that Azumi has her sights set on Kashima as well. So we'll see about that. But it was, of course, um, Mina Shirakawa with the implanted DDT onto Lady C to pick up a good win. Next up is the match for the Himeka Retirement Road. We got Ruka versus Himeka. Now, keep in mind, this match was set a while back because, as you already know, how Ruka is when it comes to Odatai, that she likes to cheat. She brought her little box and whacked Himeka in the head. So basically, it was more like this. I think this is the battle about, okay, it's like saying, well, sorry, old hag, you're out. I'm the biggest powerhouse. But I'm sure Himeka's going to show her who the real powerhouse really is. And I think that plays out pretty well. But, however, Ruka ended up on the wrong side of the running powerbomb. And 1, 2, 3, it was over right from there. Now, our next match, we got Melt here. Taking on Natsupoi and Tam Nakano, taking on stars consisting of Azuki and Mayu Iwatani. I have to say this match was pretty good because, as you know, there's like a little bit of the baggage between both Tam and Mayu. If you guys remember, they both were. Tam was a member of Stars, and I'm sure some hate Tam Nakano fans who are some Tam Nakano haters out there don't like her because of they call it the so-called betrayal, you know. But nonetheless, it was a good match. You probably would have thought, okay, someone has to win. But in this case, it didn't go that way. It just ended up in a time limit draw. I think it was 15 minutes. And I'm sure many of us would have wanted to see a win, but it didn't happen that way. Next up, we got Oedo Tai, consisting of Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, Natsuko Tora versus DDM, consisting of Mai Sakurai, Maika, and Julia. Now, you probably would have. I thought this match was a pretty good one because, Sakurai had stood toe to toe with Momo Watanabe, but you all know Momo. She is the most dangerous striker you probably would have met. But it took a lot of interest. But it was, of course, Momo with the Hito. Hold on, I wrote down the Hito de la the Nashi driver that put away my Sakurai to give them the win. So that's a good one right there. Now our main event features the members of God's Eye, consisting of Mirai, Ami Suri, and Suri taking on Queen's Quest, consisting of Miyu Amasaki, um, Utame Ayashida, and Saya Kamitani. I thought this match was also pretty good. Um, it was, of course, I figured the X factor of this match was going to be falling into the favor of God's Eye due to the fact that Miyu Amasaki, I mean, she still is a little less experienced, but that kind of played out the factor there until she ended up on the wrong side of the Blue Thunder Driver by Ami Suri to pick up the win. Um, there were some good matches I did enjoy on this one, so yeah. So I think that's pretty much it with Stardom. I believe it's time for GLEAT. Okay, now we got GLEAT with G Pro Wrestling version 47, and this was at the Gorilla Osaka Hall. Now this is a very interesting opener. Now we all been watching the Yans family trying to recruit Issei Onizuka for who knows, I think about a month or so, trying to get him to join the little group. But he shows up wearing their shirt. I'm not sure if he really is a full member. But however, they have to go through a very interesting opponent. We have Tetsuya Goto, who comes from a different promotion, and of course, there's members of 60 Seconds, Keishi Sato and Jun Tunsho, along with Kaz Hayashi. Pretty good match, not gonna lie. I think much of this match is false story about the Yans family trying to establish themselves, but they picked up the good when they applied a triple combo move onto who was it? Onto Goto, giving them the win. However, it appears that Onizuka has no interest in joining the Yans family, but I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to continue to, I don't know, try to persuade him or whatever, but we'll see. Now, this match is a title match, but this one is sanctioned because it's a title from All Japan Pro Wrestling, the Gaora TV title. Quiet Storm from Bulk Orchestra faces Minoru Tanaka. I thought this match was also pretty good because we've seen Quiet Storm, he's a big powerhouse. But Minoru Tanaka, who has more experience, will always find a way to pick up a win. I thought this was like a very intriguing match because normally we don't see that rare occasions with title matches that are not even from the promotion, as long as they have permission. I know that All Japan and GLEAT had a little bit of a showdown recently, but nonetheless, it was of course Tanaka who picked up the win when he applied a victory roll onto Quiet Storm to pick up a really good, impressive win. I think it was impressive. I thought that he couldn't do it, but he did. Now our next match. Excuse me. We have Michiko Miyagi and Yukari Hosokawa taking on Unagi Sayaka and Izuki Aoki. Now, ever since Unagi first arrived in GLEAT, she has her sights set on, of course, Michiko Miyagi. And recently, as you know, Izuki Aoki, they're not, you can say that you're not sure if they're on the same page or there's like that. The entirety, there's like moments, okay, they can get along. Sometimes they do have this, like, more like, okay, what they're supposed to do. It's pretty normal when you have tag teams that are not well established. I mean, we know that Unagi has already been established with certain people as tag teams, like, for example, her Cosmic Angels friends, the allies with Colors. I know she has picked up some good teams with, of course, AOI and Nanami. Recently, she did had a tag match with what's her name, with Madeline from Diana, but with Suki Aoki, that's a different story. You probably would have thought how this was gonna go, but in the end, it was of course Unagi with a flatliner on Hosokawa to pick up the win. But however, at the end of this match, you know deep by looking at this match, at this post match, Unagi wants Michiko Miyagi. She wants her in a singles match. Well, it looks like it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen next month. I'm looking forward to it because, as you know, Michiko Miyagi is the top Yoshi girl in GLEAT, and I think that plays out pretty well. Next up, we got a UWF Tag Team Rules match. We have Tetsuya Izushi from 60 Seconds. He teams up with Seishi Ikimoto. They take on Yu Iizuka and Shinya Aoki. Uh, I thought this match was also pretty good. Now, I wasn't 100% sure, but I have seen Iizuka, who has been very, very impressive when it came to UWF rules matches. But he picked up an amazing win with an armbar onto Izushi, putting him in submission. I'm not sure if he'll be mostly now jumping back and forth as a wrestler and a UWF competitor. Okay. Our next match, we have a very interesting six-man tag match. Commander, who you guys may have seen on various promotions such as AEW, GCW, and various other places, appeared and he teams up with the members of Strong Style that concludes with Shima and T-Hawk, while of course Black Generation International consisted with Utani, Hartley Jackson, and another guy from what's his name from Freedoms, also a wrestler from based from Mexico named Violento Jack appeared. I thought this match was very impressive because it showed how Black Generation International are trying to establish themselves as the dominating faction within GLEAT. However, you probably can't say anything wrong with Strong Style because they always find a way to pick up wins until T-Hawk applied a Falcon Arrow to Utani to give them the win. Now, our next match is a title match. We have the G Infinity Tag Team titles. We have Soma Watanabe and El Lindaman teaming up. This is something new. El Lindaman normally would teams up with anybody from the Strong Style faction, but they actually will face against the current champions, Bulk Orchestra's Chuck Shimatani and how was his name? Hayato Tamura. It was an impressive match. I think it was pretty good. But however, it was a crucifix bomb by what's his name? By Tamura onto Soma Watanabe that picked up the win. Now our main event is the G-Rex title. We have Kazuma Sakamoto taking on Kaito Ishida. Now these two guys are no strangers with each other. They actually knew each other back in their day when they were in Dragon Gate. If you guys remember clearly, Kazuma Sakamoto was a member of RED, and so was Kaito Ishida. So Ishida, who is determined to prove why this title belongs to him. I thought it was a very aggressive match, but it was a KO with a roundhouse kick into the head of Kazuma Sakamoto that made the ref to call it, and that's pretty much it. But however, it did not end there. Apparently, the next opponent who wants to challenge for the G-Rex title is none other than Strong Heart member and of course T-Hawk. So he is now issuing the new challenge, and I'm sure Kato Shida wouldn't mind that because he probably wants to get his hands on him too. So we'll see until that match is official. But for now, let's move on to the next review, and I believe it's Impact Wrestling. Okay, Impact Wrestling. We opened up with the design, which consisted of Khan, Alan Angels, and Diener, along with Sami Callihan to take on Time Machine. I thought this match was a pretty good opener. Now, however, if you guys remember, there's still a bit of the friction between both Sammy and Design. Now, keep in mind, Design are under the impression, what if people are saying about Sammy is true? What if he is trying to join the Design as a ploy? But we don't know. So, I have to say, Time Machine really did proven why they are an impressive team. But, however, because of this, Sammy Callahan took the bullet for Diener, got super kicked in the face, but in the process, it separated all members while Kushida applied the hoverboard lock onto Alan Angels, forcing him to tap out. So I thought it was a very good, impressive match on that part. Now, as you know, the Coven are the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. They sent out a direct message to Rosemary. Now, Rosemary, who doesn't believe in magic, basically felt like, oh, you must mistake and all that. So we'll see what happens. Now, last week we did witness PCO getting jumped by not only Eddie Edwards, but also by Kenny King. So it appears that Kenny King is willing to help Eddie Edwards, despite that their family, they were members of Honor No More. So this time they want to bury PCO once and for all. So the obvious thing is, when will that happen? So we'll see what happens when we get there. Now our next match we have Savannah Evans along with Jai Vidal and Giselle Shaw taking on the virtuosa Diana Purrazzo. Now keep in mind, Diana Purrazzo has been dealing with the BS from Giselle Shaw. Giselle Shaw was taking credit for saying that it was her the reason that her Diana's best friend Chelsea Green left. That wasn't true. So basically, she's all talk. But of course, we have witnessed Savannah Evans, who aligned herself with Giselle Shaw and started doing her little dirty work. But I have to say, Diana Purrazzo showed a lot of courage to take on, knowing that she's outnumbered. But it didn't do any well for her because, as you know, it was a crucifix bomb that finished the match in her favor. But in the end, the numbers is just too much. Diana has no friends whatsoever in this particular segment. So we'll see what happens then. Now, as you know, the Death Dolls are not 100% okay how things went down for them when they were lost the Knockouts tag team titles. However, um, Tail Valkyrie has always been concerned for the well-being of Jessica. Jessica found a coffin, and then all of a sudden she tried to stop her from whatever she was doing. But whatever came out of the coffin's hands, it takes Tail Valkyrie instead. Now, my impression from that segment, this is probably their way of saying ending things with Tail Valkyrie, since we all know where she's at. So basically, I think that's a pretty good, interesting thing. We saw this with the bunny, how they killed her character in an Impact. So I could see that happening. Now our next match we have Bully Ray along with Masha Slamovich taking on Tommy Dreamer and Mickey James. This one was a pretty interesting feud. However, the ref did not see it. Bully Ray low blow Tommy Dreamer in order to try the pile driver, and bam. However, Bully Ray was not done. He was willing to put Mickey James through, of course, the table, but luckily Jordan Grace showed up. Jordan Grace was attempting to spear Bully Ray, but accidentally got Mickey James in the process. So this was a misfire, but yeah. Now, as you know, there's been a lot of questions going on when it comes to Josh Alexander and his number one opponent with um, Steve Macklin. Now, Rich Swann has been questioning certain things that have been taking place. Now, the obvious thing that Rich Swann feels, he feels like that Josh Alexander never did perceive him as a threat. I mean, he probably looked at him as friend, because Aaron with words of wisdom tell him to try to talk to him. But all of a sudden, while he was on his way to arrive at the dressing room, Steve Macklin was there. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but Macklin has been playing mind games. So that pretty much it what's been happening. But we will see more of Josh Alexander later on. Now our next match we have, of course, is um, Dirty Dango teaming with Joe Hendry taking on Brian Myers and Moose. Now keep in mind, Moose has decided to help Brian Myers to regain the digital media title that he lost to Joe Hendry. But however, this was a pretty good match because it showed, okay, Moose has Brian Myers' back, but he'll do whatever it takes to ensure that they dethrone Joe Hendry. And of course, it was a spear by Moose to seal the deal, but later it was the Ross cut that sealed the deal for Myers to pick up the win. But the obvious question does remain, will this be the turning point for Brian Myers to regain the digital media title? Well, we don't know. We'll see when we get there. So let's move on to, of course, last thing, the promo by Josh Alexander. Now, as you know, he knows he has to deal with Steve Macklin. Now, Macklin has often spoken about how he felt that Josh Alexander has been ducking him. Now, Josh Alexander's saying, "No, I'm not ducking you, pal. You're the one who's been ducking me. I've been right here in this ring." However, Steve Macklin showed Josh Alexander that in a way that he's been scouting him. So basically, he's been observing him. So now Josh Alexander knows that he has that coming. Now, Josh was intending to have this match happen sooner, but Macklin said no. So basically, he wants to do this where it hurts him the most, in his hometown in Toronto, Canada. So we will see what happens then until we get to Rebellion. So for now, let's just end it right here with Impact and move forward with Ring of Honor. Okay, our final review is Ring of Honor. It started out with an interview with Samoa Joe. Now, as you all know, Samoa Joe will be putting his Ring of Honor World Television title on the line at Supercard of Honor against Mark Briscoe. Now, Joe sent a clear message to him that he knows exactly what he's going to do to him, but he wants him to take a look because he put out an open challenge for the title later on today. So we don't know who was the one who answered it. So he's giving Mark Briscoe a clear message. Now, our opening match, it features Tony Nese along with Sterling and Woods taking on Reach for the Sky, boy. We're talking about Mark Briscoe. I have to say this was a pretty good match, but I was impressed how Tony Nese was able to try to prevent Mark Briscoe from applying the J Driller. Now, keep in mind, ever since the passing of his late brother, Jay Briscoe, he's been using the J Driller as a way to pay tribute to his older brother. However, it kind of did not work for Mark Briscoe to apply it until he ended with the Froggy Bow, giving him the win. And of course, you know perfectly well he's coming for the world title. But as soon as the match was over, we saw him with his family. I thought it was a nice, memorable thing for him to do, being with his family by his side. Now, our next match, we have the Trustbusters, Slim J, Ari Davari, and Jeeves K taking on R.A. Fox, Blake Christian, and Matalik. As you know, these guys made the issue challenge for the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team titles. I think this was a perfect test for them. But of course, Sterling was going to get himself involved in this match. No doubt about it, until he got his face wiped out by none other than R.A. Fox. But it was R.A. Fox who picked up the win with the 450 splash, giving them the win. But however, their celebration did not start until they were viciously attacked by none other than the Embassy. We're talking about Brian Cage, Bishop Khan, and Teo Leona, the Gates of Agony, along with Prince Nana, sending a clear message to them. Next match, we have Lady Frost versus Sky Blue. I thought this was a pretty good match because, I seen Lady Frost. I'm a big fan of hers. So I was like, wow, pretty impressive. But however, it was Sky Blue who picked up the win when she applied the Skyfall, which is the flatliner move onto Lady Frost. Pretty good win. I hope we do see more of Lady Frost in ROH because, I know she's been appearing in various promotions, especially if it's like AEW Dark or Impact. But I would love to see her more on ROH. Next up, we have tag team action. We have Tracy Williams and Red Titus taking on La Facción Ingobernable, or as we call it for short, LFI, consistent of Dralistico and Rush, along with that weasel, Jose the Assistant. So this was a much brutal match that I think Williams and Titus have been asking for, but in the end, it was of course Rush with, of course, the running stomp on his foot, which is the bull's horns, onto him, giving Rush the win. And of course, I think many fans really are embracing this. As you all know, Rush is a former two-time ROH World Champion, so we'll see what happens then. Now, Coleman Caprice, this Caprice Coleman had to sit down with the ROH World Champion Claudio Castagnoli, and of course the man who issued the challenge, Eddie Kingston. Now, Claudio was a bit reluctant not to give him an opportunity due to the accuse him saying that he has no honor. But however, he seems like he had a change of heart. Now, I'm sure Eddie Kingston doesn't like all the crap he comes up, but we know that Eddie Kingston has one thing in mind, is to beat him up regardless. So it's now been official coming in that this match is going to happen at Supercard of Honor. Now, the war wages on between two tag teams. We're talking about the Kingdom and Top Flight. Matt Taven takes on Darius. Now, as you all know what happened, they've been going back and forth between them. But of course, Dante wasn't there. Darius had to go it all on alone. He stood up as much as possible, but however, Maria got involved and cost the match to Darius until Matt Taven applied the climax, giving him the win. But however, that wasn't the end of it. They wanted to dismantle Darius, but luckily his brother Dante was there to make the save. So you probably can guess that this war between the Kingdom and Top Flight is far, far from over. Now, our next match, we have the former ROH World Television Champion Tony Deppen taking on Brian Cage. I thought this match was pretty good. Now, Tony Deppen is the biggest a-hole on the planet. He's the toughest SOB at the same time. But you cannot count out Brian Cage, a big dude with much different agility you couldn't possibly imagine. But Brian Cage put him away with the drill claw, giving him the win. However, the other members of the embassy shows up, tried to dismantle him, but luckily, of course, you can say Tony Deppen is the luckiest person on the planet because, of course, Fox, Christian, and of course, Matili showed up to save the day. You can tell that this is not over between these two teams. Next up, we got Shane Taylor versus Silas Young. Now, Silas Young is always saying that he is the last of a true man. However, Shane Taylor doesn't want to hear that kind of crap. But I thought this match was pretty good. It was like so amazing. But Shane Taylor was in fact put away Silas Young with the package pile driver, giving him the win. Next up, you have, of course, is Miranda Elise, again, who you guys may have remembered from the last regime of Ring of Honor. She comes back. She takes on Billy Starks. I thought this match was pretty well. Now, keep in mind, Billy Starks is like a prodigy. They even talked about how many times we've seen prodigies come in. Like, you look at Roxanne Perez, who was one of them, who was known as Roxy at the time. But anything could happen. But it was, of course, Billy Starks with the Starks driver, or as we call it, the power driver, to put away Miranda Elise. So nice job right there. Now our next match is Matt Sydal and Christopher Daniels, former tag champions. They're challenged against Aussie Open. Now Aussie Open, as you know, they're trying to establish themselves as the number one best tag team in the world. So what better way to do that by attacking former tag champions? But at the same time, they are trying to apply themselves a chance to win the ROH tag team titles. I feel like they're trying to outdo FTR. That's what I think they're trying to do. But it was a pretty good match, but however, it wasn't enough until Aussie Open were able to separate Matt Sydal away from Christopher Daniels, and Daniels ended up on the wrong side of the Coriolis, and that was it right there. Now, our main event is the ROH World Television title in a open challenge. The person who challenges Samoa Joe is none other than Cheeseburger. But this match in itself ended quick because Samoa Joe put Cheeseburger in the Muscle Buster, and it was over right from there. 1, 2, 3. However, Joe wanted to dismantle him even further, but however, Mark Briscoe showed up with the save, and he knows that he's now in his head. So basically, Mark Briscoe's presence is driving Samoa Joe crazy. So we'll see how that goes at Supercard of Honor. I think that's pretty much it what we have for ROH. I believe it's time for news updates. Okay, welcome to our news update. So this is what we have for everyone. As you know, WrestleCon is getting closer and closer. New names have been announced. We have Jon Moxley being announced. We even got members of the Tokyo Pro Wrestling like Zuzumi and Yuka Sakazaki. Now, I did mention that, of course, if you're planning to take photos with Yuka Sakazaki, Maki Ito, Miyu Yamashita, remember, photos or autographs cost $30. Now, if you want the combo, that's $50. Now, other prices like Zuzumi, if you want both either the photos or autograph, that's like $20, or if you want both, the combo for Zuzumi, that's up to $30. So just letting you guys out there, we've been announced Athena will be there, and so will be Hijo del Vikingo. Now, speaking of Miyu Yamashita, it was announced on Impact Wrestling that she will make her official debut with the promotion next week. So I have to say it's very impressive. I think she did had an interview talking about she would like to go to Impact Wrestling, and I think this is going to be great. However, that wasn't it. As you know, Miyu Yamashita has been booked for stacks of matches from after the event of the LA at the WrestleMania weekend. She didn't. It was also announced by Deadlock Pro Wrestling. She will be there on the 16th of April. So basically, she'll be making her return to the promotion. Now, the next participant for the Queen of the Indies on the 13th of May, we have Brooke Havoc. I may have heard that name before, but it's interesting to hear. Speaking of the WrestleMania weekend, as you know, Will Ospreay has been injured since the events of what happened in New Japan Cup. He was supposed to be involved in the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show during WrestleMania weekend. Apparently, he's not going to be involved. However, Jeff Cobb stepped up, but because of that, they will be in a match now. For the March Hitchcock Memorial Show that will take place on that day, on the 30th of March, here's the matches they announced for that particular day. Let me pull it up for everyone. Okay, this is what we have. We have Hijo de Vikingo versus Black Taurus versus Commander, and this is for the AAA Mega Championship. Then we have Speed Mog Bailey and Shigehiro Iri, which is an interesting match. Both these competitors are winners of two different promotions. Shigehiro Iri is the winner of the 16 Carat tournament that took place with German promotion WXW, and as for Mike Bailey, Pro Wrestling Gorilla, the Battle of Los Angeles. We do have a 10-woman special tag team match. Haven't announced who will be involved, but stand by on that. We have Jeff Cobb and Aussie Open teaming up to take on Time Machine, Kushida, Alex Shelley, and Chris Sabin. Negro Casas versus Ultimo Dragon, an old rivalry between them. I can't wait to see that. Josh Alexander and Tom Lawler will be in it. Will be teaming up. They take on Kenta and Brian Keith. Then we have, of course, another six-man tag team match. We have Rey Horus, Aromis, and Galeno Namal taking on Ares, Latigo, and Toxin. And then finally, Michael Oku versus Rocky Romero. So that's for that particular day on the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show. So stand by that. Now, some of you may notice that Jamie Hayter was not present at the AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday. Reason behind that, reports are coming in saying that she went home to UK. As you know, she's dealing with her work visa, so she has to deal with that first. Now, keep in mind, certain wrestlers who are not exactly from here in the United States have to go home to renew their work visas. We saw that already with Buddy Matthews. I'm sure many wrestlers who are foreign have to deal with that. So we'll wait until that happens. But stand by for her return. Now we got some GCW updates for everyone. So we're going to go from certain ones from the collective and very others. So let's get started on that. For the culture on the 30th of March, we have Two Cold Scorpio taking on the bounty hunter Brian Keith. Willie Mack versus Billy Dixon. Now, as for Bloodsport Night 9 on the 3rd of March, it was announced that we were supposed to have John Moxley versus Davey Richards, but due to the situation that took place with Davey Richards, he's out. So who stepped up? Well, apparently Alex Coughlin stepped up to the plate. However, that leaves another problem. I'll get to that in a bit. Then, of course, we have the GCW versus DDT on the 31st. A match has been announced. We have Los Macizos teaming with Alec Price and Gringo Loco. They take on Shinjiro Tagagi, Daisuke Suzuki, Kanon, and Takashi Masada. Then, of course, on the 1st of April for the Effie's Big Gay Brunch, we have Kid Bandit versus Sawyer Wreck. And then after that, we do for the World on Lucha, we have Black Taurus and Los Vipers, Latigo and Toxin taking on Commander, Ares, and Aramis. Big news coming from the Indie Hall of Fame. Barry Blastrom will be the one inducting Mike Modest, who was the fourth person to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. However, big exciting news for this: Excalibur is now the fifth inductee into the Indie Hall of Fame. So it hasn't been announced who will be inducting him, but I'll be getting to that soon enough. Now then we have the Into the Light event that takes place on the 21st of April. We have the East West Express versus the Workhorsemen. I think that match is going to be great. Now for our final update, we have the ROH Supercard matches on the 31st. It was now announced that the AAA Mega Championship, Hijo de Vikingo will put that title on the line against Commander. So it's going to be one hell of a match between these two. And then finally, we have the ROH World Tag Team titles on the line in a Reach for the Sky ladder match. Now, keep in mind, this was an idea that Mark Briscoe announced that since his brother's no longer here, he and his brother will be relinquishing the titles and crown brand new champions, and they announced the Lucha Brothers to be involved. However, they already made the announcement who will be involved in this ladder match. We have Top Flight, the Kingdom, LFI, and of course Aussie Open. So as I said with the Aussie Open, I feel like they're trying to outdo FTR. So that's what I believe is going to happen. But I think that's pretty much it what we have for our news updates. So I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we have, of course, AEW Rampage and King of NXT Level Up. My bad. What the hell am I thinking? And I think that's pretty much it what we have. So if there's anything going on, I will put that at another timing. But we'll see what happens. So I'm just gonna wing with it for everyone. But I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. And have a nice day.